So this guy called a spade, and they, according to what, the Freedom of Information Act, they decided to pull the information on him to find out exactly what he sent Mayor Lightfoot. And then all of a sudden, listen, cancel culture ain't even real. I'm going to be honest with you. Again, unless you do something absolutely egregious, cancel culture is not real. And the worst part of this whole situation is that it don't make anything that he said less true. At the end of the day, this man, Chris Kempczynski or whatever his name was, he's going to go back and live a phenomenal life. He's going to do an apology tour. It doesn't mean that what he said, he don't still feel any of this kind of crap. But the reality is that that's still the truth. Not your truth, not his truth, not their truth. It's the truth. And then we're going to have an honest conversation, but we got to come into it with honesty. We're going to have an honest conversation about what's really happening, because how can you solve for something if you can't truly understand exactly what was happening? So it was 2 children that was slain in Chicago. And this is courtesy of the NPR. So it's a pretty unbiased media outlet. And McDonald's CEO is being forced to apologize after saying 2 children, the 2 slain children, were failed by their parents. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive, right? McDonald's CEO Chris is facing backlash for comments he made in a text message. So he sent a text message to Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Shout out to Lightfoot. I don't really like Lori Lightfoot at all. In which he appeared to blame the death. He didn't appear to. He did blame. He blamed the death of 2 Black and Latino children who were killed on the parents. So he blamed the parents for these children getting killed. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive for those of you that's not familiar with the story. In his text message, he was discussing the deaths of Jaslyn Adams, a 7-year-old who was shot and killed while sitting in a car with her father in a McDonald's parking lot in Chicago. All right. 7-year-old shot and killed, sitting in the car with her father in McDonald's. All right. Let's rock, y'all. Let's rock. And Adam Toledo, a 13-year-old Latino boy, killed by police in March. So on the surface, it seems like I can't believe he's this insensitive. Let's continue. He called both deaths tragic, but then said in each case, the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say, and it's even harder to fix. This is what he texted to Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Shouldn't have been texting. Anton don't do phones like that. All right. The messages revealed in an unnamed activist filed. The messages revealed by an unnamed activist filed by a public information request. So if you are an official, this is one of the ways that they caught up Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, is if you're using mobile devices and you're a public figure, they can file a public information request and find out what the piss is going on. So an activist filed a public information request and was sent and found out that he had sent this text message to Lori Lightfoot, right? Because Lori Lightfoot is a public, she's an elected official. He wound up apologizing and said, I have not walked in the shoes of Adams or Jaslyn's family and so many others who are facing a very different reality. He made an apology letter. Not taking the time to think about this from their viewpoint was wrong. The letter was shared with NPR member station. When asked, McDonald's had no comment. Now he's holding a town hall with McDonald's staff on Monday, but no further details were provided as far as a discussion. Now the activists are pushing back against McDonald's. Criticism towards him was swift after his comments were revealed last Monday. Several groups that help fight for the better working conditions of people of color, including Color of Change, One Fair Wage, and Little Village Community Council, banded together to protest the company's headquarters in Chicago last week. They also penned a letter to him on Wednesday calling his text ignorant, racist, and unacceptable. Ignorant, racist, and unacceptable. What do y'all think about that? This is what they said. You relied on lazy, outdated, racist stereotypes in order to uphold the status quo and avoid accountability of those in power. So because he was the CEO of McDonald's, they saying, listen, you racist, you need to be held accountable and we gonna kick your way. Cancel culture. As a leader of one of the world's largest private employers and most iconic brands, you have a responsibility to do so much better. And now the CEO is saying he's working to correct his narrow worldview. He's forced to apologize. Listen, he's trying to make sure that he secures the bag. All right, good enough. In the video, the CEO acknowledges he has a very narrow worldview. He's working to address. Blah, 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 blah. Interesting. Cool. So if you just read this one article, and this is why you guys need to do a little bit more research, you'd have one perspective. And then I did a little bit more deep diving because I wanted to understand what the truth really was. So it's one thing to understand exactly what was said, and it's another thing to get the truth. So I went on the Wall Street Journal, right? And it was an article written by a guy named Jason Riley on the Wall Street Journal. And he broke it down a little bit differently. This is what the CEO of McDonald's said. You can't be a gangbanger and a good parent no matter how much you love your kids. Woo-wee. But see, first you got to start adding the context to it. What does he mean by gangbanger? Because in the other article, they just said that the kids got shot while they was in a car and all of this other type of stuff. What is going on? After 7-year-old Jaslyn Adams was shot dead while sitting in a car with her father at a McDonald's drive-thru, right? This is what he said. A man who puts his child in danger, even for love, is not a good father, no matter how much he claims to be. When a bullet meant for him kills a child, he becomes an unwitting accomplice in murder. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that it was a bullet that was meant for him, that it wasn't just some kind of random thing? Does that change the context? Does this then become racist? Interesting. Following Jaslyn's death and that of another Chicago youth, 13-year-old Adam Toledo, who was shot by police a split second after tossing his gun. Shot by police a split second after tossing his gun. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that a guy was gangbanging and then this other guy got into a confrontation with police and he had a pistol with his kid with him, but we trying to cancel the CEO of calling a spade a spade? Interesting. Let's continue. It goes over where he said it was tragic shootings with both parents failed the kids. I know it's something you can't say, even harder to fix. Cool. Then he embarked on an apology tour. Reality is that there's nothing to apologize for. Jaslyn's father, who was injured but survived, has a long criminal record and acknowledged on social media that he knew he was a target for gang retaliation. He was being retaliated against by another gang, and he had his kid in a car with him. Adam Toledo's encounter with the police occurred at 2:30 a.m. Why do you have your kid in a car with you getting into confrontations at 2:30 a.m. with the police? And a 21-year-old accomplice, a repeat gun offender, were captured on video shooting at random moving cars when someone called the cops on them. Gunpowder residue was found on the boy's hand. When an armed 7th grader dies while roaming the streets in the middle of the night with a felon, are we not allowed to discuss parental supervision? Yo, I'm so tired of these victim Olympics. Because what the problem is that you never actually solve the problem. They're so focused on the people that don't even matter, a McDonald's CEO for calling a spade, when in reality, you should be holding the people that's having their kids in a car at 2:30 a.m. shooting at random cars accountable. But if you say anything that is not on code, we got to get our pitchforks out. We got to get our pitchforks out. I'm amazed. What's more tragic? What's more racist? I'm curious. Is it racist that we don't hold the sins of the father accountable? Or is it racist for a person to call a spade and say, yo, if it wasn't for the parents, these kids would still be alive? I don't believe in it. I don't believe in the oppression and victim Olympics. Captured on video shooting at random cars at 2:30 a.m. Insane. He was stating a plain truth, making an observation surely shared by an overwhelming majority of rational adults. The problem, as he also noted in his text, is that stating plain truths has become, this is insane, y'all. This is absolutely insane. This makes no sense whatsoever. Amazing. We're supposed to pretend that the high rates of violent crime and other social pathologies among low-income blacks and Hispanics can be blamed entirely on systematic racism and the individuals that themselves are blameless. I'm amazed, y'all. I am absolutely amazed. So this guy called a spade, and they, according to the Freedom of Information Act, they decided to pull the information on him to find out exactly what he sent Mayor Lightfoot. And then all of a sudden, listen, cancel culture ain't even real. I'm going to be honest with you. Again, unless you do something absolutely egregious, cancel culture is not real. And the worst part of this whole situation is that it don't make anything that he said less true. At the end of the day, this man, Chris Kempczynski, or whatever his name was, he's going to go back and live a phenomenal life. He's going to do an apology tour. It doesn't mean that what he said, he don't still feel any of this kind of crap. But the reality is that that's still the truth. Not your truth, not his truth, not their truth. It's the truth. At the end of the day, it's still a truth. And just because you don't like it, don't mean that it's any less true. And people won't still be killing each other in Chicago and in the red zone in Detroit and Overtown down in Miami and LA and every other place in the country. The reality is that if you really cared, then you would start holding the people accountable that's responsible, right? They didn't even blame the people that shot the kids. They blamed the CEO for being insensitive. When are we going to evolve? Or are we going to continue to devolve into a space to where we never, ever, ever start to take responsibility for our actions, which would then foster growth and force us to change and become better versions of ourselves? I told y'all the other day, I'm never going back to the hood. I'm never going broke. I'm never going back to the hood. I will never subject myself, because it's a mindset first. It's a cancer. It's a cancer. In order to evolve, you have to first remove yourself from that environment so that you can get clarity. Because if the only thing you're seeing is through murky waters, you'll never understand all of the filth and stuff that you've always been a part of. You just adapt to it. You become an alligator and you just swim in filth all day long. You wait for somebody else to come along. You know, alligators eat their own. You know, they will eat their own in order to survive. They will. And they swim in filth and they muddy around. And you know what else they're going to be? They're going to always be here. They've been around for 1 trillion years. They're going to be here. They're going to be the last ones to survive. Alligators, roaches, mice, rats. They always going to be the ones that survive the longest. It's always going to be more of them than it is the righteous. But at some point on an individual level, you're going to have to remove yourself from the environment of running in the victim Olympics, running in the oppression Olympics, and then you break free to actually be able to see clearer so that you can become greater. You no longer have to run in this bullcrap. You no longer, listen, this don't just apply to the whole race thing. It don't just apply to the money thing. It applies to everything. When you have problems in relationships, and if you continue to get the same results, chances are it's you. If you always have problems, if no woman ever decides that she ever want to submit to you, you're going to have to understand that maybe I'm a beta. Maybe I'm weak. Maybe I'm not the man. If you got to ask a woman to submit to you, chances are you're not the man that you're supposed to be and you need to do some work. If you out here dating broke, chances are you're not the man that you're supposed to be and you need to do some work. If every single man look at you as just an object and he don't look at you as wifey material, chances are you're probably a slut, you're probably a whore, and you're going to have to do some work. I don't care. I'm an equal accountability partner. I don't care about how you feel. I don't care about what makes you feel good. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here for the results. No more victim Olympics. If you cannot find anybody that wants to be on your program, then maybe you need to switch the program that you subscribe to. If you can't find anybody that wants to give you a raise, chances are you're a toxic employee. If you keep getting fired from every job that you go to, it's not the people at the job. The problem is that you're still taking you with you. It don't matter how many different opportunities and how many different jobs you get. You're still taking you with you. If you are complaining about Anton, while Anton got Rita in the room trying to figure out the weather in these different locations so me, her, and my daughter can go and change the weather so that I can get over this little rest of this little cold or whatever it is that I got, you still living in squalor. Your mama don't like you. Your daddy wish he never had you. Your kids is going to grow up to hate you and realize how much of a sucker you are. And they may feel some sympathy for you until you pass away. Your baby mamas ain't rocking with you. You got to negotiate for custody and agreements. You are the problem, sir. You are the problem. It's time for you to man up, man the fuck up. Fuck your feelings. Don't nobody care about how you feel. Don't nobody care about what you thinking and whether or not you want to come to the table and what do you bring to the table. Don't nobody care about what you bring to the table. Nobody cares. Get your bread up and then we want to have a conversation. Don't nobody care about your journey until after you win. Then they want to know how you got there. Don't nobody care, bro. Either we gonna get all the way there or we not gonna participate in the discussion. But the one thing that I'm never going to do is continue to have discussions with people that don't have the results, because why would I argue with a fool? Why would I argue with a fool? Why would I keep punching down? I don't punch down at all. You get to a point in your life where you don't punch at all. You a fool if you think that a chick is supposed to submit to you and you ain't got yourself together. You ain't got nothing for her. You can't do nothing for nobody. You a fool. Listen, I'm going to just tell you straight up. If ain't nobody ever told you, if you ain't never had your daddy in your life to give you the game, I'm going to tell you, you a fool for having a kid and not being able to pay for him. You a fool for not knowing how much it costs to have a kid. If your kid grows up and they submit themselves to having the same circumstances as you, and they got to take out student loans, and your kid, your daughter become for the streets, and your son ain't worth two dead flies, it's your fault, because your kids is paying for the sins of your fathers. It's your fault. Yours, nobody else's. I take ownership and responsibility for every single person that's around me, good or bad, is mine. I own it. It's the reason why it's a benevolent dictatorship. Emphasis on benevolent, because I'm a nice guy. But it is a dictatorship, which means that we rise and we fall on my well-being. I am in charge of the ship, which means that I take full ownership and responsibility. I'm not blaming Rita for anything that go on in this house. That's mine. I own this. I'm not blaming my daughter for anything that go on. It's mine. I own this. This is what real men do. This is one of the reasons why it was important for us to go through the lessons and suffer as we were coming up. We learned the lessons early so that we can control and make sure that everything was what it was supposed to be. The greatest way for you to even build wealth in your household, the only way for you to even help your community is you getting yourself together first. It starts with you. End of discussion. It ain't nobody else's problems but yours. I don't care what you went through. I don't care how much therapy you need. I don't care what your past is. You a grown man now. And from today forward, October 10th, 2021, we going to be different from here on out. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because it's for your benefit. I'm already up. Tomorrow when I do this show, I'll probably be in a whole nother state. I don't even know what state I'm going to be in tomorrow. I'm going to be doing this show from a whole nother state tomorrow. Meanwhile, you still going to be sitting there complaining. We done with that, bro. No more victim Olympics, no more whining, no more complaining, no more none of that. We don't care about what women think. We don't care about what men think. We don't care about your friends, what your mama said. I don't care nothing about any of that. Either we going to go in, we going to win, we going to get to this money, we going to get to the bag, we going to get to the results, we going to have our life be a result of the things that we continue to be intentional about, right? We're going to leave this earth in a better space. We're not going to be a cancer on it. Or we not, or get out the way. Or get out the way, bro. Don't nobody want to keep hearing that.